Yes, on the harp, and thank you all for being here and for sharing your words with us today and your music, your sounds, all of that. So I'll pass it along to Sandra. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here, the legendary Piachuchas, and it is so beautiful, isn't it? Just the art, the spirit, the space, the love, the curation. I am also very happy to be in the company of two daughters who blessed the anthology with their brilliant work. I'm so excited to meet you in person. I haven't met many of the writers in person, so it's always a thrill to meet them in person. I had asked Jackie to read what is titled A Writer's Prayer. Do you want to?
Yes.
Okay. So I start the book with a chant by Maria Sabina. She is and was an indigenous Mazatec shaman, priestess, and one of the greatest voices in 20th century Latin America. And she never received the poetic acclaim during her lifetime. And it makes me really proud that in 2023, we are able to lift her voice in the way that we're lifting it and make her part of the canon. Her tradition, her oral tradition is ancient and it lives and it's timeless. And then the second voice that starts the book is our beloved Gloria Anzaldúa, who was such, I get goosebumps when I mention her name. She's been so instrumental in Chicana literature, in Latine literature, and so Jackie's going to bless us with reading the prayer.
Hi, everybody. I'm back again. Sorry I ran off. I completely missed hold on. Oh, is it good? Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'll be reading A Writer's Prayer by Gloria Anzaldúa. And I'll start. Let me enter the writing without resistance and toil in the muck of chaos. Out of disorder, let me bring order and something new into existence. Let me touch the bodies of others and move their souls. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm going to read a little bit from my anthology, my essay. It's called A Literary Ceremony. And I start with the words of Maria Sabina, and she says, "Words are medicine. Medicine is the breath. I cure it with language, nothing more." And I'm going to end it there. I mean, what else can I say, right? So, we're going to start with Angela. Is your real name Angelica?
No.
Okay, that's how your email came through.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
So, I want to talk about how it was that you first heard of this anthology. Obviously, I know, but kind of share the story of how you ended up being part of this collection.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So nice to be here. I'm so excited to meet fellow writers, but also Sandra, who's put this amazing work together. This is something, I was an English major at UC Davis way back in the day. I teach English now, and this is the book that I dreamed about. Like when I was a college student, I'm like, where is the anthology with Latinas? Where is the collection? Like, you know, we would get like a little splattering here and there in different anthologies, but there was nothing like this. So this is really important. So I get an email, and Sandra Guzman says, would you like to share something for this anthology that I'm planning? And she tells me that her husband, the poet laureate of New York, is saying that he teaches my book at a private school, Exeter, And I'm like, that is so weird, because when I was growing up, I had a pen pal who went to Exeter, and I wrote to him for many years. And so I'm like, yeah, I know that place. But I was so excited. And then months passed. She writes to me. She's like, okay, I'm ready for you to send me that thing. And I'm like, feeling really down at this time. I hadn't been writing for a while. I was really stressed out. And I felt so bad, but I'm like, I'm just going to tell her I don't have anything. And then she writes back, she's like, you have to give me something. And so I'm like, well, okay, I have this thing I've been working on. Let me just see if you like it. So fortunately, she did. And then we worked on it a little bit more. But my essay in the book is called Family Day. And it's a memory about my father, and my father not always knowing how to be the best father. And as a Mexican American man, I realized in writing that he also had his own challenges. So it was kind of healing. It was kind of a nice process to do that. But yeah, that's how I hooked up with this collection.
Okay, I was going to do something now. Can I borrow this?
Because she didn't. But Angela Morales is a Mexican-American essayist born and raised in San Gabriel, California, a suburb of Los Angeles. Her essay collection, The Girls in My Town, won River Teats Nonfiction Book Prize and the Penn Diamonstein Spielvogel Award for the Art of the Essay. She is an exquisite writer. Her work has appeared in the Best American Essays and journals such as the Los Angeles Review, the Southwest Review, the Normal School, and the Harvard Review. Currently, she teaches at Glendale Community College and is working on her second essay collection, A Family Portrait in Essays.
Can you share with us a little bit about your work?
Yeah, so I write personal essays. I like to think of them more as true stories. So I really kind of start with an image that haunts me from my childhood or my past or my present. And I try to write around the image. Like I try to describe and find a story. Like, why is it that this image keeps appearing to me in my mind? So one of the stories that I wrote in my book, I kept seeing a bowling ball in my memory. And when I was younger, I was a bowler. Like I was on a bowling league. I was really nerdy, and I was a good bowler too. But I kept seeing my bowling ball in my mind. I'm like, why do I need to describe a bowling ball? It's golden like the sun. And so I started describing it. And then all around it, I realized there's a whole story of why I was always at a bowling alley. And that's because my parents, their store, they had an appliance store, and they worked like 18 hours a day. They would send me to the bowling alley. Get out of here, you're bugging us. They would give me like sometimes $20, and like they go bowl until you run out of money. And so I got really good. So I realized, it's about work, and it's also about finding a place that accepts you when there is no like home base. And so I found a place that kind of accepted me there. And so I realized with every image that you have, like you might think about this too, like do you have things that you remember, like a certain bicycle or a room like in your grandma's house, or try to like sometimes sit down and describe it and just like, what did it look like? What did it feel like? I'll bet you a story will come out of that will help you to kind of see your family's place in the world. And that's kind of how I operate as a writer. And that's usually the way more intuitively, that's the way I like to do it. I don't write more like from intellectual ideas, like I'm going to write an argument about this or that. I write more from imagery and just to see where that goes. So,
can you talk about your first collection, which was really well received, and it's just so powerful. It places you in a unique place in America and the world, and yet it feels very universal.
Oh, I'm glad to
The
hear
masterful, right? It's what you want in any story.
Yeah. Well, it feels very personal to me. So when people tell me, I can really relate to this in different ways, and I didn't grow up in San Gabriel, I'm not Mexican American, that really like makes me so happy, because that's the goal of a writer, is to write the truth and to write what your experience, but also to go deep enough so that you make a connection with the universe. I call it the universality, the things that connect us, So like maybe you didn't grow up in San Gabriel, but you know what it's like to feel unloved by your father. Or maybe you didn't grow up in the 70s as a teenage girl in the 80s, but you know what it feels like to find beauty in nature. So I try to find those things like that go deeper than the story too. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to do that though. Mm-hmm. And I realize when I'm writing, I can be writing and writing and writing, and I'm not feeling it. And finally I'll find it's like a little gold nugget. I'll always start crying. Mm. And I'm like, oh, that's what it's about. It was never about bowling. It was always about finding acceptance. So it's like until you dig deep enough, like you're never going to find it. So that's the hard part, right? Mm-hmm. As a writer.
I wanna bring into the conversation Estella Gonzalez, and I want to read your bio before. Why don't you read it? Anthologies such as Latinos in Lotus Land, an anthology of contemporary Southern California literature, and literary journals Quayle, The Acentos Review, Asterix, and Huizache. Her writing has been recognized with awards and honors, including an International Latino Book Award, Cornell University's Philip Freund Prize in Creative Writing, a Pushcart Prize special mention, and as a reading notable from the Best American Non-Required Reading. Her first book, Chola Salvation, which I have here, and they actually sell it here at the Achuchas, is a collection of short stories, was a finalist for the Louise Merriweather First Book Prize, and a finalist for the James D. Houston Award for Western Literature. La Malinche and La Llorona is an excerpt from her novel in progress, Huizache Women. Actually, it's now been published, so it's available now for order through Arte Público. Thank you.
How did you come to the anthology? You want to share your story?
Oh, I love this story. So I received an email from Sandra, and I saw her name, and I'm like, is that Sandra Guzman, the from Latina magazine, the same one who produced Toni Morrison's documentary? I was just like, that can't be her. But it was, and then being from East LA, I'm like, I have to confirm this. So we did a Zoom because I'm like, okay, is this really her? And it was. So I was just so excited. And then when she told me about the anthology and what she planned and who was going to be in it, like the superstars of Latina literature, like Sandra Cisneros and Elena Maria Miramontes, who was my chair when I was at Cornell, I'm like, I have to be in it too. I want to be with those women. So I just said yes. And I was working on my novel, and I was like, is it okay to do a standalone? And Sandra's like, you can do whatever you want. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I love this. So that's how Sandra and I got connected.
And I love that I wasn't specific with what you both should submit. I didn't give you any direction. I just said you can write 5 words, or you can write no more than 1,000 or 5,000 words, and you can write about anything you wanted. And I remember you said, and I said, we have women who are writing about their mothers and their fathers, their grandmothers, their bodies. They're writing about love or unlove. They're writing letters. They're writing to the patriarchy or against the patriarchy. And you said, is anybody writing about tías?
Because I am.
And I love that you brought Diaz into the conversation. They're so important in our cultura. Yeah. So I was wondering if Angela could read from an excerpt from a little bit from your story.
Sure. I'll read like a page, a couple of page.
Perfect.
Okay.
Page or two. Yeah. And then what moon? We're going to talk a little bit about the concept of this book.
Okay. Do you want me to read first, or do you want to?
You can read first, and then we'll talk about the concept of how I divided the book.
Okay.
What page are you in?
Yeah, what page?
I'm on 484. I'll just read the first few paragraphs just to lead in. This is called Family Day. On his days off, my father, wearing only his underwear, would sprawl out on the den sofa, shades drawn, television light flickering in his eyes. Clicking the remote control, he would cycle through all 7 channels. Remember that?
Yes.
Again and again, as if he were searching inside those pixels for the answer to some question that he could not name. Everything annoyed him. My mother's congealed scrambled eggs, our mountains of laundry, that damn kid banging the theme song from SWAT on the piano. Fed up, my mother would suggest that he take his fat ass off the couch and play with his children, or maybe lift a finger and fold some laundry. Then my father would tell my mother to leave him the hell alone. Get off my back, he'd say. But with my father, it was all or nothing. Either he was selling appliances at the store, with his personality turned on high volume, energetic and positive, joking with the customers, patting their backs, complimenting their wives, or he was home brooding in the den, deflated on the couch, his hair greasy and uncombed. He wanted nothing more than to eat a half-gallon of carnation Neapolitan ice cream and to be left in peace. Outside, sparrows tweeted and fluttered beneath the silver arc of the neighbors' sprinklers. The sun shone as brightly as ever. On our cul-de-sac, Mr. Lima was tossing his son a baseball. Mr. Dyrick was maneuvering a lawnmower across their patch of grass. Mr. Britton was painting their garage a brighter shade of white. My dad was sitting on the couch in his underwear, enraged about one thing or another, and making our lives miserable.
Right? Did you read this?
No. No.
I love the story because it's from the point of view. Well, tell us about the story. It's from the point of view of a little girl, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm at the time that the story that I'm telling. I was about 8 years old, and that day. So what happens next is that my parents kind of get up and get dressed, and they go, "It's family day." It's Sundays. Sundays were called family days. This was the day we have to go on like to a park or, do something as a family, which everybody hated. So they say, we're going to go to the Arboretum. And I'm a big reader at that time. I said, I don't want to go. I'm just going to stay here and read my book. And they say, no, you have to come. So basically they forced me to come. And my dad grabs the book out of my hands. He rips it up.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
read it. Read that part.
Do you want me to read that part?
Yeah.
Okay. I can read just a little bit more, but I don't want to like.
We're gonna go back and forth.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say.
We're gonna flow.
I don't want to like hog the time.
Yeah.
So
I know.
okay. So where was I?
485.
480.
I want her to read it too.
Right?
I think it's cool also that my story is next to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. Okay, so we're going to the Arboretum. I'll just read you that. I'm not going. Leave it to one kid to upset the delicate balance. You most certainly are going, my mother said. I most certainly am not, I replied. Shut up and get your ass in the car, my father said. By this time, he'd pulled on some Bermuda shorts and a Hanes t-shirt and had wet down his hair. But living in a house with a blaring TV, bickering parents, barking dogs, shrieking children had left me yearning for solitude, for empty houses, for bird song. All I wanted was some peace and quiet so I could read my books. I'll stay here. I said, no, you will not. They said, yes, I will. I said, it's family day. They said, family day sucks. I always stay home by myself. What's the big deal? Shut up, they said, and go put on some shoes. Maybe if you knew how to read, you would understand, I said to my father. I know. I held my book up to his face and dangled it there. Some people enjoy reading, I said. My father stared at me coldly, but for once said nothing. Although he was by no means illiterate and was a smart man, he simply had no patience for books. And I'd quickly discovered that I could taunt him with this fact. Further argument seemed pointless, so I trudged outside, shoes half on, book in hand. I flopped across the back seat of the Cadillac. Better, I thought, to preemptively put myself in the back seat by my own free will than rather than be dragged there. Although ours wasn't the pancake-eating family lounging around in their pajamas, I still had my books to keep me company and to shield me from daily skirmishes. How I loved the feel of a book in my hands, the woody smell of the pages, the candlestick eyes, the graceful and curvaceous G's. I could wander across a landscape of sentences and soothe myself with the gentle and logical authority of a narrator's voice, so opposite to the chaos of life on the Loma. So there I was, lounging across the back seat of the caddy, my nail-bitten fingers grasping my book, A Little Princess, sunlight streaming through the car windows with the haze of dust fairies encircling my head. In all of childhood, we are given rare and precious moments when the world for just a few seconds belongs to us, and no adult can intrude. We believe that despite our small bodies and limited experiences, if adults would just leave us alone, the future would shape itself perfectly in what it was meant to become. The plot had just gotten really good. The protagonist, Sarah Crew, had just been forced to become a scullery maid in her fancy finishing school because her father had not paid her tuition. As I held the book above my head, one foot slung across the top of the seat and feeling that momentary sense that my life belonged to me, my father flung open the car door, muttered, "God damn it," and snatched my book out of my hand. In 2 quick motions, he tore it lengthwise down the spine and then crosswise into quarters. There's your book, smart ass, he said, breathing hard, ripping up more pieces and flinging them back at me. How'd you like that? Maybe now you'll learn to show some respect, little shit. He breathed hard. His eyes had gone bloodshot. Then he laughed. You think you're so fucking smart with your little books, he said. You're just a lazy, disrespectful brat. And then it goes from there.
Wow. It's such a good story. And I love the voice of that very feisty 7-year-old who knows exactly how the world is and it should be. And if she ran the world, it would be a lot more different. Thank you.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think as children too, we understand a lot more about the world than adults give us credit for. Even if we don't have the words to express it, we understand stuff. So I was trying to convey that understanding that I think a lot of children do have, right?
I think you're right. It's true. I remember myself as a 7-year-old, and I knew a lot more than I was ever given credit for. Absolutely. And so, Estella, can you share a little bit, read some of the work? Tell us a little bit about it and read.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, this is a chapter from my novel, Huizache Women. And the chapter is called La Malinche and La Llorona because the whole book is about, I say it's about a woman who falls in love and wreaks havoc on everyone around her. And and there's betrayal, right? The havoc that she wreaks is on her daughters and some of it on her granddaughter. And she's very fierce in her love, and it just gets to be too much for everybody, and it gets abusive in some parts too. But La Malinche, of course, she was an indigenous woman from Mexico who was sold by her tribe to the Spaniards who came out and invaded Mexico, and she became Hernan Cortez's lover. And she's like seen as a betrayer of Mexico, but really she was betrayed by her own people. And she did what she could to survive, which was basically, she had to be a concubine for Hernan. She had to translate for him. She wanted to live, and it's like, well, if I have to do this, then I will do this. And nobody ever considers the circumstances. It's like, what would you do if you were in Malinche's position anyway? And La Llorona, another woman who was betrayed by her lover, and she's kind of like Medea. I think she runs very parallel to that Greek myth of a woman who was betrayed by her lover, and then she takes it out on her children. But again, in this chapter, we have a character, Lucha, who's a 14-year-old, and she is betrayed by her own boyfriend. But her tia, right, I bring in the tia, is the healer, and she owns a botanica in East LA, and it's called La Malinche, which is done on purpose. And she is the healer not only for her family, but also for the community. So this chapter takes place when Lucha is finding out that her boyfriend is just, he's not it. He's a shit, just like Angela said. Anyway, so I'll read a page or two. Blues, every shade of blue can be found in the bathroom. Powder blue on the walls, baby blue dots on the white tiles of the shower stall, royal blue towels, sky blue outside of the windows. The sink, toilet bowl, cabinets, and built-in wooden vanity all gleam porcelain white, while knobs on the drawers and medicine cabinets sparkle sapphire blue. The white hexagonal floor tiles, outlined in thick black goo, cool me down after school while I wait for my abuela Merced to come home from her shift at El Yuma. Sometimes I lie on the floor in my bra and panties while I listen to K-Rock, the rock of the 80s. Richard Blade's sexy Australian accent rambles out of the transistor radio about some concert at the Greek or Fabulous Forum. His voice bounces off the floor, onto the walls, and out through the thin panes of glass, out onto the concrete courtyard. Then he spins the latest hit, like Shiny Shiny by Hazy Fantasy or Time Zone by World Destruction. Weird, but danceable. Sometimes a song's beat makes me jump up and twist the volume all the way up so I can lip sync while I watch myself in the built-in mirror of the vanity. I lean in close, pretend I'm singing to John Taylor of Duran Duran or my boyfriend, George. Before we started 7th grade at Griffith Junior High, he was Jorge with the corduroy vest and thick accent. The 4th Street schoolboys made fun of him and called him a TJ, not because he was from Tijuana, but because he was a Mexican. Never mind that all of our parents are Mexican, we're American, and somehow better. But at Griffith, it's all about first kisses, dances, and the babes. According to my girlfriends, George was now a babe, no longer a TJ. It's okay for George to be my boyfriend. During those summer nights, I need George the most. After dusk, when all of East LA cools down, I open the little bathroom windows for fresh air. Sometimes, especially on a hot June night, the stink of rotting pig's blood drifts in through the windows, filling up the bathroom with gross death smells. That's the Farmer John slaughterhouse, George says. Like the one from Carrie? Same one, he tells me. The moment he says this, the stink becomes glamorous. It's from Hollywood. I remember the scene with John Travolta killing the squealing pigs after Nancy Allen, his wet-eyed girlfriend, gives him a blowjob. George and I kiss a lot, but he never asks or makes me give him a blowjob. He just tells me to never hold his hand or kiss him in front of anybody at school. Now he comes to stay with me in the little yellow bungalow house until Merced comes home from her bar job. Don't come to my locker after class, he says more and more these days. I know why. He's after Yoli Zamudio, the Weta queen bee of Griffith Junior High, who won't give him the time of day. The boys call her Miss 69, whatever that means. Thank you.
Tell me about the story, the novel, the book, what inspired it.
Well, there's a couple of stories that feature Lucha and her grandmother Merced in Chola's Salvation, and I couldn't stop writing about them, so I figured there's got to be a novel in here. And I started this novel actually when I was in grad school, and just this whole idea of love has always fascinated me, because I was also an English lit major when I was in undergrad, and this idea of love and what it means and how it can be unhealthy, or it can be a tool to manipulate. But when I write these stories, I try to show the joy of love too, and what it means to be in a healthy relationship. It also means what it means to be in to accept yourself and love yourself, love your community, love your family, and how that keeps you healthy and makes you thrive in this world that especially if you're a young woman of color, it can really pound you down. So yeah, this story, I just realized too that Lucha, she's so young, and she's just trying to figure out, what is love. She doesn't have any healthy role models, and that always makes it so difficult, because, like I said, Merced is just like a crazy stalker with her lover, and Alma, her mother, is just she's still traumatized from what she experienced. Anyway, this novel, I kind of wanted to model it after like Arthurian legends, epic romances, not a traditional romance with the happy, Disney ending. Because my stories, if you read my collection, they never have a happy end. They have, I call it Islos Real. They have the Islos Real ending, which means, it could be good, but it could also be hard and frustrating. And sometimes the characters never break the cycles that are so unhealthy for them. So, gosh, I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. Anyway, that's basically it in a nutshell.
Thank you for reading that. Thank you. I love your work so much. And I love that also you're lifting cholas, which I think is so important to lift cholas in literature. I wanted to share that this anthology is divided into 13 sections, each representing one of the 13 sacred moons of the year. 13, or Ojalashush, is the word for 13 in Cachiquel, is considered a sacred and holy number and another word for God in the Maya tradition. It is a numeral with the highest vibration and found underlying in nature, in the human body, and in the cosmos. Our human body has 13 main joints. Men have 12 orifices. You can count them later, or with me later, or tomorrow. And women have 13, the womb, the portal of birth. And so I think that makes us the holiest of all. In one of the sacred Maya calendars, the week is made up of 13 energy cycles affecting different parts of the body. According to the Maya timekeeper, Nana Maria Elena Curucuchiche Roquel, each moon, like each of the 13-day cycle, is considered and connected to a specific energy, a specific intention. So cosmic timekeeping is an ancient art for the Maya, who are the world's most sophisticated timekeepers. At least one of the Maya calendars in use today includes 5 cycles that equal 26,000 years. So being in tune with these different celestial energies each day, Nana Maria says, is to live in harmony with the earth and the universe. And she notes that even if we're not aware, La Luna, Earth's beloved satellite, is communing, touching, healing earthlings with her light, particularly women, inviting us to connect to her divine flow, her divine cosmic flow. So, what moon are you in, Angela? What moon are you in, Estella?
I'm in the shamanic moon.
Can you share the energy of the shamanic moon?
Yes. Let me open it up to the shamanic moon. Here it goes. Sorry. Oh, you're in the same moon? Oh, cool. It says the moon's energy is favorable for disentangling problems. That fits.
Wait, I thought you were in the magnetic moon. Angela.
Am I? Okay, let me look again.
You are.
Oh, okay.
Don't steal my moon, Angela.
What'd you think when you saw the anthology divided into these holy moons of the year?
Oh, I thought that was so great. I'd never seen anything like it. And again, I'm like, well, that just fits. And, I had mentioned before, Brit Major again, Test of the D'Urbervilles, it is divided into phases of the moon. And the moon, I knew, has always been associated with women. I mean, that's since ancient times, the moon has always been. And I think, too, like when, you get your period, it's called your monthly, your menses. And I think Latin, it derives from mes. So I think, Luna is really the Latin word. But anyway, I mean, I just knew that the moon was really closely associated with women, and I thought that was perfect.
Yeah. And on this trip, I recently learned that the Zapotec nation, when women get their menses, it's called Debajo la Luna. The moon has descended, which I think is so poetic and just beautiful to express something that happens to us in this beautiful cycle. So what moon are you in?
Well, mine is magnetic moon, which is this lunar energy encompasses the 4 cardinal points. So special. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and when I saw the layout of the book, I was so intrigued by that, and I thought, oh, that really adds like a whole new layer to the stories too, to think of it in that way and to connect it to nature a little bit better, but also in just thematically too. So I love it. I think it's great.
When I was thinking about how to organize the book, it was a little bit challenging. How do I organize the writings of 140 women who write in 24 languages, who come from about 48 nations in Latin America, the United States, the Caribbean, and the world, because Latinas are all over the world. We're in Europe, and we are in the 4 corners of the world. And so I thought the moon would be the most fitting because we have the moon inside of us. And then I thought about, it's not just the moon, it has to be an indigenous moon of the Americas. And what is our concept of the moon? And when I was thinking about all this, I remember I was walking on the beach and I was walking with an indigenous brother, Luis. I've been going back home, rematriation to the Caribbean, to my motherland in the past, since 2014. And he asks me a question that has left me seeking for a lot of answers and really learning something each day. He asked me, he goes, so you're returning home, but do you know the language of the moon? Do you know the language of the moon? Do you know the language of the moon and what it means? And so I started to think about my ancestors, fishermen and fisherwomen and women who tend to the earth. And they would not do anything without knowing the specific stage of the moon. They wouldn't just venture out to fish without knowing the tides. And the tides are all connected to the moon. They wouldn't plant a seed until they knew if it was luna menguante. And what kind of luna menguante, what season? And so it just made me want to go deeper into who I am, because knowing the moon more deeply is knowing me more deeply. And I wanted us to think about this as we journeyed through the anthology to get to know ourselves more deeply through the writings of these women. So that's kind of what I was thinking when I organized the book this way. So we have a few minutes left, and I'm wondering if anybody has any questions. There's somebody here who read the book in the library, and I love libraries. What library did you read Daughters of Latin America in?
I got it from the LA Public Library.
The LA Public Library, yes! That's great news.
Apparently they have it also as an audiobook.
And they have it in an audiobook, so you have it too? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's on Libby, so.
Oh, good. So, do you have any questions?
I mean, one thing that I wonder is, how did you think about the flow? I mean, I know you talked about like the moons being guideposts, but I'm really intrigued by how you decided to think about that flow, just like water, just like moon phases. How do they kind of connect? What's the thread, perhaps?
Like how it was that she ended up in the shamanic moon,
Yes.
and how it was that Angela ended up in the magnetic moon. I think it was magical. I think it was mystical. I think it was intentional, and I think it was like composing a song. So the first time that I started to divide the texts, I was in Luquillo, Boriquen, Luquillo, Puerto Rico, aka Puerto Rico. And I was in front of the ocean. I have a home in front of the ocean. And I remember that it was already nighttime, and I laid all the texts on the floor with the sections. And then the inevitable happened, a blackout. So I was like, okay, so I still wanted to figure out how to do it. So I started to play around with it. And what I did very intentionally was I opened each section with a poem, and I ended each section with a poem. So the poets introduces into the section and end. And I thought about the writings. I thought about what it is that each of the writers was trying to do and to say. And if you think about the shamanic moon, and you think about the disentangling of the issues, right, the energies of that moon, I thought about Estella, and I thought about Lucha, and I thought about what it was that this young woman was trying to do. And so that's why you ended up there. And then with the magnetic moon, I just, I thought your piece was, first of all, so magnetic. I loved your character. She's just so spunky, and also the 4 cardinal points, like when you settle your relationship with your father, you are settling a part of you that's very, very important. It's kind of holy. And so that's what I was thinking about, yeah. And some of it just landed in a way that, I'm still like, what? I have you there? It's really beautiful, the way intuition and, the subconscious works. Because your works have been with me. You have been with me and in my mind for so long, that it was almost intuitive as well. Mm-hmm. ¿Preguntas? Any questions?
Yo no he leído el libro, pero la verdad que me llamó la atención. Mis abuelos me hablaban de las fases de la luna. Sabía que las lunas las utilizaban para el sembrado, y pues ya de grande sí me fui relacionando con las fases de la luna, así como se llama en nuestros periodos menstruales. Y todo influye, tu modo, ¿cómo le llaman? Tu mood.
Tu mood, tus emociones.
Tus emociones. o sea, tus emociones influyen, están relacionadas con las fases de la luna. Y en muchas ocasiones lo relacionaba yo con mis hermanos que no entendían porque pues tampoco les hablaron, tampoco sabían esa situación. Y ahora pues sí hace sentido, pero no sabía yo que tú hablabas prácticamente estas fases de la luna. Me llama la atención el libro y tal vez a lo mejor muy pronto trataré de conseguirlo.
Qué bonito, gracias. La edición en español, Hijas de América Latina, sale en noviembre 21. Así que ya casi en unos días sale. Entonces el libro fue traducido, todas las mujeres que escribieron en español o en portugués, porque también hay portugués. También hay mujeres que escriben en francés, porque en Latinoamérica es la región del mundo más diversa del mundo, en términos raciales, étnicos, culturales, lingüísticos. En México, por ejemplo, uno puede hablar una lengua diferente cada día de la semana y nunca de esas lenguas son inglés o español o francés o de las lenguas europeas. Así que todas esas lenguas fueron traducidas al español y al inglés. Y aquí también hay algo muy especial en este libro. Y lo que hay, que estoy bien orgullosa, es que en el libro las mujeres de pueblos originarios, de pueblos indígenas, que todavía escriben en sus lenguas ancestrales, aquí están sus lenguas ancestrales. So the writing systems of indigenous women who write in their ancient mother tongues are in the book alongside their English translation, so that we can have a tangible experience in their writing systems. Yeah. ¿Preguntas? ¿No? ¿No?
¿Cuánto tiempo tomó para formular el libro?
Okay, ¿cuánto tiempo? How much time? Fueron 2 años, 2 years. And that's really, really fast for an anthology. I understand that's like a fast pace, but the contract came in and I had to deliver it a year ago in April. And it was fast tracking. And a lot happened. This was during COVID. And so this anthology was woven during a very difficult time in the world. And for me, this book was a gift because I was not so much paying attention to what was happening in the world, but I was paying attention to what was happening in the periods that the women were writing in. And what you realize is that we have had many pandemics and that we have survived many pandemics. In fact, the first pandemic that started in this part of the world was in 1492 when our people, the Tainos, discovered Columbus. So We've survived pandemics, and that's what this book teaches me too. The survival strategies of pandemics. So 2 years, and I didn't want to let it go because as a writer, as an editor, you always have one more word or one different word or one. You just don't want to let it go, right? When do you let go an anthology? And the editor was like, "It's time." So I think we have to end, right? I just want to thank everybody. The book is for sale here, and we can talk to you some more if you have more questions and you're a little bit shy to ask publicly. But I just want to thank Angela and Estella and Radha for coming out, and Tia Chuchas for hosting us.